Hello everyone. Now this is going to be a long one, so you might want to make sure that you have a nice cup of tea and some biscuits to settle down with. I have some satellite imagery to look at here, showing Russian losses in the recent battles for Avdiivka. These were shared and put together by Tatarigami UA on Twitter, who compiled them and did absolutely amazing work. The link to their Twitter account will be in the description. So they found that the total number of vehicle losses shown on satellite images between October the 10th and October the 20th is 109, a brigade-sized force in just 2 days. But remember, the bulk of these losses would have took place around the 18th and the 19th. That's when the major attacks happened. The true number is also likely higher, as Tatarigami themselves excluded some which may have detected vehicles which were still active, but could also be wrecks they couldn't tell. And there were also some areas not covered by satellite imagery, not to mention vehicle losses after the 20th. Most of the vehicles were identified as being infantry fighting vehicles such as BMPs, BTRs, MTLBs, as well as a variety of tanks. Now, while these images are great, showing the extent of the losses, isolated, the images don't tell us much of a bigger picture, so to speak. So what I'm going to do is try and break this information down some more. So I'm going to look at the satellite images and then pinpoint the location where they took place on the map, so you can see where the Russian pushes took place and where the bulk of the vehicles were destroyed and that sort of thing. So, I hope I have your tea ready. Let's get started. Red squares indicate new losses, grey squares are losses which were from September or before. We're going to start with the area in and around the spoil heap. So these first two images take place very close to each other and are part of the same bit of action. So in this first image, we can see 3 wrecked armoured vehicles, 2 of which very close to each other. They had been advancing along a road, and a little bit north, along the same road, we have 3 more. Now, I can't tell what types. These look to be infantry fighter vehicles, so could be BMPs or BTRs most likely. This was here, so these were advancing south from Krasnohorivka in the direction of that spoil heap and the coke plant. This was a key target for Russia, as it provides an elevated position over the area, and it's riddled with tunnels and bunkers that Ukraine has set up. It's a tough nut to crack, and if Russia manages to take it, they'll be difficult to dislodge. So these were likely part of one of the first armoured columns to support the offensive here. It could also potentially have been an attempt to secure the railroad, which you can see. Now, for some reason, some of the later images we have to look at in the list come from this area too. So that's why you see the numbers jump drastically. But I've put them all together to make it a bit more clear to understand all the vehicle losses in the same area rather than number order. So here, this image, back to the spoil tip, so numbers 58, 59 and 60 are in a cluster. They look like they were hit by artillery. 62 looks like it was abandoned. I can't tell what may have hit that one. Now, I'm not sure if this is the same attack as the last one we looked at near the spoil heap, or a different one. Who knows? But they are in the same area. These vehicles were heading west. There are 2 roads seen, but I can't say for sure which way they came from. The first road doesn't seem to lead anywhere of note, so I think it likely they followed the same route as the vehicles we saw in the past satellite image. Here, vehicles 63, 64 and 65, again near the spoil heap. This shows us a bit more of the attack here, so the blue arrows show the approach of these vehicles. So far, 13 vehicles destroyed in and around the spoil heap. Let's check out the next vehicles. These aren't clustered together, so look like they were hit individually. 66 and 67 look to be armoured fighting vehicles of some sort. 68 appears to be a tank, and 69 looks quite boxy, so I'm wondering if it's an MRAP or a supply vehicle. The MRAP is heading east, back towards Russian lines. I don't think a retreat, I think it returning after carrying out a supply mission of sorts. So these, again, near the spoil heap. 2 of the vehicles look like they may have been advancing along the road near the Arra. Possibly part of the same column of vehicles destroyed attacking the heap. Number 1 is a tank, I guess likely providing long-range fire support, and number 2, an MRAP, heading back towards Russian lines. Now we are heading east of Krasnohorivka, Let's check the images. So we're going to see big losses around this area. So in this first image, we have a pair of armoured vehicles. Impossible to say what hit them. Possibly drones, but they're both abandoned. Here, vehicles 9 and 10. They are along the same road. Near vehicle number 10 is an old wreck. Remember, grey square indicates a vehicle that's been there before October. Vehicles 11, 12, 13 and 14 are shown here. Numbers 12 and 14, you can see signs of burning on the ground around. 13 looks to be very badly burnt. Artillery maybe hitting these ones. Big losses here in this image, vehicles 15 to 17. So 15 was moving across a field when hit and destroyed. You can see extensive burning around it. Looks like it may have hit a mine. 16 is on the road. Can't tell what this one is. It's abandoned and doesn't look too bad, so maybe Russia can recover it. 17 completely destroyed. No recovering that one. Looks like it was artillery that hit it. 18, 19 and 20 are a touch further north on a road heading towards a tree line. Possibly a supply route. 18 looks like an armoured vehicle, but 19 and 20 look like they could be supply trucks. These may have been hit by drones as they appear lightly damaged, and I think a truck being hit by artillery would be in a much worse condition. Now, let's check the map. This one is interesting because, as you can see, these saps didn't even reach Krasnohorivka. And remember, Krasnohorivka is Russian occupied, so this offensive force on their way to assaulting Ukrainian positions got nowhere near the place of the assault before it was hit hard by Ukrainian artillery and drones. 14 vehicles destroyed here. One of the markers, remember, there are 2 vehicles at, so big losses before even reaching the front lines. So these next images are from in and around Krasnohorivka itself. So here we have losses number 21 to 26, all clustered around the town. So the image isn't clear enough to tell the state of the vehicles. Some of them look like they were parked up when hit, like numbers 22 and 23 for example. Others, like 24 and 25, look like they may have been moving through the town, possibly to join one of the offensives. Here, numbers 27 to 31, also near Krasnohorivka, just on the outskirts. Remember, this settlement is Russian occupied, so these vehicles weren't trying to capture it. All of the vehicles look to be orientating towards the south, with the exception of 31, which is heading east. Let's pop them on the map. Now, I don't think this was all one big advance, as the pattern is a bit too spread apart, and some of the vehicles look like they may have been parked up. So I'm not going to have a guess at the route of advance here, as I can't say for sure if these vehicles were all part of an advance, or if their role was to drop off supplies in this town and head back. But some of them do look like they were approaching the front lines and were likely part of other columns which will crop up later on with satellite imagery. But we can definitely tell that Ukraine had this town zeroed in and malleted the vehicles hard in and around it. Here we are heading west of Krasnohorivka to what I call the field of no return of a BTR barbecue. These images clearly part of a very large failed advance. So vehicles 32 to 36, all destroyed in the same spot pretty much. 34, 35 and 36, all clustered very close together. They appear like they were hit hard by artillery when they were grouped up. Check the scoring on the ground. 33 and 32, I can't tell if they were artillery too or something else. Let's check the little map of this one. So this cluster of vehicles was here. This doesn't tell us much, so let me zoom out. So this group of vehicles are highlighted in the red square. They were advancing west towards Stepover, likely an attempt to secure that railway you can see. As we will see soon, there are many losses in and around this area trying to advance across these fields. This group didn't even make the field, but at least we got closer than the ones hit east of Krasnohorivka. To the south, we can see the first column we saw, the one heading in the direction of the coke plant on this image. Now we don't know if these 2 columns were destroyed on the same day, so a simultaneous push towards the coke plant and one towards Stepover, or if different days. Russia seeing one attack failed, trying to advance in a different direction instead. I think it took place on the same day, but I'm not fully sure. This isn't a BTR barbecue, though it does resemble it. The infamous BTR barbecue, where around 4 or 5 BTRs were destroyed in one artillery strike, occurred in the area of the blue circle. It will appear on satellite imagery later. We are now going to look at vehicle losses 37 to 43. Now the bottom ones, 37 to 40, look familiar to me. I think I covered these on a past video. These were hit by drones and artillery, if I remember right. 41, 42 and 43 are new losses to me. It's unclear as to what they actually are. So these vehicles on the map were advancing roughly like this, the bulk of them heading west and then intending to curve up north towards the tree line and head west again. This area is Russian controlled, so I don't think this type of movement was intended to clear the tree line, and given the lack of leaves on the trees, I don't think it was to avoid being spotted and to try and use the trees as cover. I think it likely the field here is mined and this route was used to try and avoid them. Here, I've zoomed out a bit, so this push was heading west across that field. Now, this field may be familiar to some of you who have seen my last videos. Russia experienced very high losses in this field. It's the one I call the field of no return. That tree line that the vehicles were advancing to, that leads to the BTR barbecue. It may even have been part of the same advance as the BTR barbecue, but I can't say for sure. But given the direction these vehicles were heading, they were clearly heading to assault that very same field which leads to the railway lines. These, as you can see here, didn't make it. And here we are, vehicles 44 to 49. This is the BTR barbecue. These vehicles here were destroyed in one quick artillery barrage. The lead BTR hitting a mine, blocking the way. The others grouped up and Ukraine hit them hard. I can count 4 BTRs here. Number 44 looks to be an MTLB. This isn't the only time we will visit this area. More will be added to the BTR barbecue soon. Now, let's check out the next screenshot. Vehicles 50 to 54. 50 and 51, I think we've seen in a video before, hitting mines, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't do a video on it, but the location of the wrecks looks familiar. They were advancing roughly west across the field. 52, 53 and 54 are new ones to me. 53 and 54 are in the tree line. It's hard to say which direction they were going exactly. For 53, there are tracks going north and south, so it could be either way. But as the south track branches off towards the east, that leads back to Russian lines, so I do think it likely this was heading north, possibly part of the same column and following the same route as vehicle number 51. If you can see, that one is following track marks too, which loop around towards vehicle 53. Here, similar location, 3 new vehicles. We have 55, which looks like it could be a tank, 56, which may also be a tank, and 57. That one looks like it was retreating. The tracks where it came from head towards Ukrainian controlled territory. Now, Russia is making this map a little bit confusing, so I'm just focusing on the losses of the push here, otherwise there will be too many arrows. So here, we can see their advances from the southeast, looping over the field and heading north, likely to try and capture the railway. Just to the right, you can see the BTR barbecue. It's impossible to tell if these BTRs are part of the same attack, so an attack looping from the south and one intended to go straight west across the fields, or if it's yet another different attack and attempted push that failed. At the very top, we have the retreating vehicle. So, this is a long video. I hope you're still with me. In this satellite image, we're going back to Krasnohorivka again in the field of no return. Here, vehicles 88 to 95. And again, more vehicle losses in the field of no return. Vehicles 96 to 101. This image isn't too clear, but we know from a video which I looked at a few days ago that the vehicles destroyed in this field were mainly BTRs. Some of these vehicles we just looked at are more additions to the pile of scrap at the BTR barbecue. On this image, vehicles 102 to 105. These are clustered together south of the field of no return. They look like they got jammed up and hit by artillery in one go, similar to those BTRs north. They're here, circled in red. I can't tell if they plan to hug that tree line north or just head straight west across the field. Either way, they never made it. They were hit before entering the field. I'd guess a mine disabled them and then artillery finished them off. On the map, we have 31 vehicles in and around the field of no return, including some which hit on the way here, would have destroyed just before we could enter the field. And the field still isn't captured. Imagine that. 31 vehicles, and actually the true number is higher, because some didn't show up on satellite imagery at the BTR barbecue, which may have been recovered. All this to try and capture a field which wasn't even Russia's to begin with. Pretty pointless. Now we're moving to the southern front. In this image, we have vehicles 70, 71, 72 and 73. Number 70 looks like a tank. I can't tell what the others are. 72 and 73 are close together, maybe hit together. So here we are, headed south of Avdiivka now. So this is a push from Vodyana to Sevena. These vehicles hit south of Sevena. We saw videos from here early on in Russia's offensive, but not as many as the pushes from the north, but still some notable losses. These vehicles are part of the advance from Vodyana. You may remember Vodyana as being where a Russian vehicle fell off a bridge into the water. That one, of course, won't show up on the satellite imagery as it's underwater. Next image, a lot destroyed here, numbers 74 to 80. I can't tell at all what these vehicle types are, but this area looks familiar. I think I did a video covering these losses. They were hit by artillery while advancing north. Let's put them on the map. So this was the failed attempt to capture Pervomaiska from the south, advancing from Pisky and Donetsk. Now, finally, our last batch of vehicles, a small cluster of vehicles here, all heading in different directions. I wonder if these were all trying to escape an artillery barrage, or it could just be a regular supply route for Russia, with these vehicles being picked off by Ukraine on different dates. Number 108 especially, looks like it got a very good rogering. These were here, so another 4 vehicles which never actually made it to the front lines. So, zoomed out, you can see the bulk of these losses were north of Avdiivka, with significantly fewer near Sevena and Pervomaiska. I'm not sure why. Maybe Pervomaiska and Sevena were intended more to be feints, with the bulk of the attacks focused north, the intention being to draw Ukrainian forces here. It could also be just that north holds the more strategic locations, namely that spoil heap and the railway line leading to Avdiivka, which we looked at. Deep States is less cluttered with map markers, so let's check the situation there. So you can see 4 major pushes were seen with this satellite imagery. North to Sevena and northwest of Pervomaiska in the southern axis, and in the northern axis we have advances south to capture the spoil heap and west to try and capture the railroad tracks in the northern axis. Let's check the territorial control on the day these losses were first tallied, so the 10th of October, and now today's one, the 26th, so we can see just what Russia has managed to capture. So Russia has extended their lines to the north, pushing up close on the railroad tracks and cutting that possible supply route, and also the spoil heap is now contested territory. That has been confirmed to have been abandoned by Ukraine, but Russia doesn't control it yet. The spoil heap is near that little patch of water which looks like a crooked leg. So Russia has had gains, no doubt about it, and this will put pressure on Avdiivka, but still, well over 100 vehicles destroyed for what amounts to very little. The spoil heap will be a big gain though, and will give Russia the advantage in this region, if they can fully capture and control it. Now check the field of no return. Russia is shown now as controlling half of that field, and that's the field we saw 31 destroyed vehicles. So 31 vehicles destroyed to capture half a field is very poor going. So these are huge losses, but this isn't a complete tally of the total number of losses. This is basically just showing the losses near the front lines or on the way to the front lines. What isn't shown is the losses of those further back, namely artillery systems. We do have videos showing different artillery systems of Russia's in this area being destroyed, notably a TOS one, which I looked at on a video a couple of days ago. These ones, as you can see, haven't been shown on these satellite imagery, so the true number of losses is higher. And of course, these satellite images were taken up to the 20th of October. So any until now, about 6 days, aren't showing up. So again, we are going to have more losses here. So huge numbers here. This entire offensive has been a bit of a disaster. But unfortunately, Russia are making important gains to the north, slowly but surely. And as we've seen in the past, such as Bakhmut, Russia just doesn't care how many soldiers or vehicles we throw away, as long as we have some sort of little victory to brag about. Hopefully, though, Ukraine can hold the line and grind this offensive to a complete halt, like we did with Russia's failed offensive near Vuhledar. So, that's it for this video. Thanks for sticking with me for so long. Now, before we finish, I'm going to play two videos from NAFO 69th Sniffing Brigade about the ongoing fundraiser with them for a Sukhamimus channel patch. Thanks very much for watching, and take care, everybody.
We are the Burevy Offensive Guard. We need a pickup truck to carry out the tasks of intelligent units on the front line, to transport personnel and ammunition. We appeal to Sukhamimus and charity-found 69th Sniffing Brigade to help us. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Ми, танковий батальйон 41-ї бригади, потребуємо авто для виконання бойових завдань, евакуації поранених та аеророзвідки. Звертаємось по допомогу до Sukhamimus та фонду 69 Sniffing бригади. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!